As she said, I'm Austin Wareheim. I'm a 2013 graduate of Buckeye Trail High School. Actually, I'm now assistant coaching track and field, and I see a few of my athletes out there today, so thank you for joining. As she said, I'm going to talk to you about why I came back, but first I want to start with why I moved away. And we're going to start with, raise your hand if any of you do plan to move away and never come back. And be honest, because we already were told that you have to be honest here today. Okay, quite a few of you. Raise your hand if anyone has ever made you feel like you need to move away in order to be successful in your chosen career path. Quite a few hands. Raise your hands there. That was me. That was me as well. When I was here, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I was rather successful in high school, and then even more so in undergrad. I went to Ohio University Eastern in St. Clairsville. And when I started thinking about the idea of going to law school and talking to people about it, even though it may have never been said directly, it was strongly indicated that in order to be successful as an attorney, I was going to need to go elsewhere. And by telling me that, there's a little bit of an undertone to that is, you're not needed or wanted here. And that's hard. And those tides are changing dramatically. You've already heard today words that I never ever heard said to me when I was your age. You've already heard that you are needed here. And I'm going to tell you that you're wanted here. We want you to come back. My speech today, it's a little bit different than what you've heard, but it has some similar tones to it. I'm going to talk to you a lot about service in a different way. Everyone who was up here was in a uniform. I am clearly not in a uniform today. Their type of service is very different. They're serving the community every day. The community pays for their salary. I feel like I am here to serve the community in a much different way. So I moved away because I wanted to go to law school, and there are obviously no law schools in Guernsey County, Ohio. And I also wanted to try living somewhere else because I was told that's what I needed to do. And so I went to law school in Nashville. Has anyone ever been to Nashville? Yeah. Super fun city. If you ever get the chance to go, please do. It's a great time. I lived there for 6.5, almost 7 years. A lot of that, I lived on Music Row, which is where all of the different recording studios are, where all your favorite music is written, recorded, produced, and a lot of radio stations where it's actually played from. Extremely fun, especially as a graduate student. My wife and I, who also went to Buckeye Trail High School, she was the valedictorian there. She's much smarter than me. She'd probably be up on the stage and not me, but she's at home taking care of our young son. We would walk to concerts all the time. At one point before COVID hit, we had a streak. We went to a concert every single month for something like, 48 straight months or something ridiculous. And oftentimes it was multiple concerts in a month. We went to block parties and private concerts. We got to meet artists like Kelsey Ballerini and Kane Brown, who you hear played on country radio all the time nowadays. It was a great time in our lives. I graduated law school. I started practicing law there. Practiced for about 3 years. Got a lot of in-courtroom experience, a lot of hand-on experience. But I wanted to try something different. I wanted to try practicing environmental law. I wanted to work on some of the biggest challenges that I think we face as humans today. Climate change, issues with pollution, issues with chemicals, all these different things that we're dealing with today. And in order to do so, I felt like I needed to go to a large law firm. And my wife and I also were missing Ohio a little bit, but we weren't necessarily missing Guernsey County yet. And I hadn't been told that I was wanted or needed to come back to Guernsey County at that time. So I started to applying to firms, and I ended up getting a job at a large law firm in Cincinnati, and I worked there for about 2 years, and doing exclusively environmental law. And yes, it was very challenging, but it didn't do for me what I thought it would. Did not feel like I was impacting anyone's lives because I was serving large corporations. So that's what large law firms do. They serve large corporations and not necessarily people. And as my time went on there, I started to think more about where the biggest problems in society were, where I could be and work on the most challenging, thoughtful things that were happening in the world. And I was also at that time, my wife and I were welcoming our first son into the world. His name is Indy. He's 10 months old now. He's awesome. And all these things kind of came together, and at the same time, I finally heard the words that I didn't know I needed to hear, and that was that I was wanted and needed back here, back home. And that meant the world to me. And I was told that we needed more young attorneys in town, and I just happened to be a young attorney at the time, and I wanted to come back and fill that role. And I'm going to bring this back to the service aspect that I talked about here at the beginning today. Working in the private sector when you're in a small town is service. You are servicing your community. There aren't many attorneys in town. We are under attorneys in town. All of us are super busy, and so having this degree and working in the private sector allows me to get things done in the community that weren't necessarily maybe getting done. I go to a lot of meetings, and I talk about some of the most challenging, difficult problems that I've ever talked and thought about. One of them being what I'm trying to do right here today, which is convincing young people that it is a good idea to come back after you further your education elsewhere. Come back here, serve your community, because we want you and we need you here. It's a very difficult problem to solve, because some of you have been told already that you need to go elsewhere. Some of you think that there are so many problems here that can't be solved. But I challenge you to think, every problem that you see in this community, every problem is actually an opportunity that a young person who's ambitious can come back and solve. Being under attorney here, people not being served, not having their legal needs met, that's being met by me coming back and finding a partner in the firm that I work with, Equus Law Group, who has 9 attorneys that can help me serve my community and help build out systems so we can serve more people than just I could by myself. There's a lot. I talked to my stepsister who's not here today. She goes to Buckeye Trail, Natalie Chumney, if any of you know her. That's my stepsister. You can make fun of her and say that some weird guy, her brother, talked to you today. And she also couldn't figure out how to sign up to come here, so you can pick on her for that too, because I'm pretty sure she just had to sign a piece of paper, which isn't that hard. I talked to her last night, and she talked about there not being anything to do in the county, and I hear that all the time from young people, and it's not necessarily incorrect. I couldn't really push back on her that there's not a lot to do here. But what I did challenge her with is, how can you solve that problem? And that's what I want all of you to leave here today thinking about, is every problem that you see with this county, how can you be the solution? If you go away, get an education, how can you come back and solve it? And before I leave today, I want to repeat this, because it meant so much to me to finally hear it, and I'm glad you are hearing it, because I did not hear it until I was gone for 6 years. But we need you here in this county. We need all of you ambitious young people to come help us come up with creative solutions to problems. And we also want you here. We want you to come back. We want you to fill the roles that are being vacated. We want you to help us solve these problems.